In a recent U.S. study of the mental health of homosexuals, it was found that gay/bisexual men had a more than threefold increased risk of major depression and a fivefold increased risk of panic disorder. They were 3 times as likely to rate their mental health as only fair or poor and to experience high levels of distress. Gay/bisexual women had a nearly fourfold increased risk of general anxiety disorder, and both groups were more than 3 times as likely than the general population to require treatment in a mental health setting. Parentheses, Cochrane S. and others, prevalence of mental disorders, psychological distress, and mental health services used among lesbian, gay, and bisexual adults in the United States. J. Consult, Clin. Psychology, 2003, semicolon 71:53-61. It is claimed that the high rates of mental illness among homosexuals are the result of homophobia. However, even in the Netherlands, which has been far more tolerant to same-sex relationships and which has recently legalized same-sex marriages, high levels of psychiatric illness, including major depression, bipolar disorder, manic depression, agoraphobia, obsessive compulsive disorder, and drug addiction are found. Sanford, T.G. and others, same-sex sexual behavior and psychiatric disorders, findings from the Netherlands Mental Health Survey and Incident Study. Parentheses, Nemesis, Arc, General Psychiatry, 2001, semicolon 58, colon 85-91. Furthermore, if homophobia and prejudices were the cause of the high rates of psychiatric disorders and suicide attempts among homosexuals, one would similarly expect to find higher rates of suicide attempts and suicide among ethnic minorities exposed to racism. However, this is not usually the case. In a Vancouver study, life expectancy at age 20 years for gay and bisexual men is 8 to 20 years less than for all men. If the same pattern of morality were to continue, it is estimated that nearly half of gay and bisexual men currently aged 20 years will not reach their 65th birthday. Parentheses, Hogg, R.S. and others, modeling the impact of HIV disease on morality in gay and bisexual men, International Journal of Epidemiology, 1997, semicolon 26:657-61. 3. Homosexuality and pedophilia. Any attempts to legalize gay marriage should be aware of the link between homosexuality and pedophilia. While the majority of homosexuals are not involved in pedophilia, it is of grave concern that there is a disproportionately greater number of homosexuals among pedophiles and an overlap between the gay movement and the movement to make pedophilia acceptable. One well-known historic example on the link between homosexuality and pedophilia is found in ancient Greece. Greek mythology is saturated with stories of pedophilia, and ancient Greek literature praises pedophilia. The age group of boys that were used for sexual pleasure was probably in the range of 12 to 17. Male prostitution was very common, with brothels in which boys and young men were available. This is evidence for an extensive trade in boys. Churchill, W. Homosexual behavior among males, Hawthorne, New York, 1967. There are links between pedophilia and homosexuality. The political scientist Professor Merkin wrote in a paper that pedophile organizations were originally a part of the gay/lesbian coalition. Merkin, H. The Pattern of Sexual Politics, Feminism, Homosexuality, and Pedophilia, Journal of Homosexuality, 1999, semicolon 37, colon 1-24. There is an overlap between the gay movement and the movement to make pedophilia acceptable through organizations such as North American Man-Boy Love Association, NAMBLA, as admitted by David Thorstad, co-founder of NAMBLA, writing in the Journal of Homosexuality. Thorstad, D. Man/Boy Love in the American Gay Movement, Journal of Homosexuality, 1990, semicolon 20, colon 251 through 74. David Thorstad, sicko. Ugh. The number of homosexuals in essentially all surveys is less than 3%. Statistics Canada found only 1% of the population who described themselves as homosexual. However, the percentage of homosexuals among pedophiles is 25%. Blanchard R. and others, Fraternal Birth Order and Sexual Orientation in Pedophiles, Archives of Sexual Behavior, 2000, semicolon 29, colon 463-78. Therefore, the prevalence of pedophilia among homosexuals is about 10-25 times higher than one would expect if the proportion of pedophiles were evenly distributed within the hetero and homosexual populations. For gay marriage. Gay activists claim that there is no difference between children raised in a homosexual as opposed to a heterosexual household. However, essentially all studies that show that there is no difference have been criticized because of poor research quality. Despite the shortcomings, these studies seem to suggest that children raised in same-sex parents may be more sexually promiscuous and more likely to become homosexuals. In a recent U.S. study in a review of all the studies that purport to find no difference between children raised in families by same-sex parents and parents of different sex, major methodological flaws have been noted. For example, the studies have very small sample sizes, biased sample selection, or a lack of control groups. P. Morgan, Children as Trophies, Christian Institute, Newcastle upon Tyne, 2002. Despite the limitations of the studies of same-sex parenting, some differences are found. Children raised in same-sex parents are more likely to become sexually promiscuous and are more likely to become homosexual themselves. Riggs, SC, co-parent or second-parent adoption by same-sex parents. Letter, Pediatrics 2002, 109, colon, 1193-4. However, the main concern remains the inherent instability of same-sex marriage. In the above-mentioned Dutch survey, the average length of a committed homosexual partnership was only 1.5 years. In the mentioned survey of nearly 8,000 gays, 71% of relationships did not last 8 years. Furthermore, violence among homosexual partnerships is 2 to 3 times as common as in heterosexual relationships. Such an environment does not provide the stability required for raising children. Former homosexual Stephen Bennett, who is married to his wife and has 2 children, states, granting homosexuals the right to marry or adopt children is deliberately creating dysfunctional families. Biological evidence regarding gender development. Despite all the impression given by the media, homosexuality is neither an entirely innate condition nor is it unchangeable. The so-called gay gene has never been found. There are studies that show it is possible to change sexual orientation from predominantly homosexual to predominantly heterosexual orientation. A recent review by authors sympathetic to the gay movement shows clearly that homosexual development cannot be only determined by genes. Evidence from biology shows clearly that gays are not simply born that way. Environmental influence plays a significant role in the development of gender identity and sexual behavior. Bailey J.M. Biological Perspectives on Sexual Orientations. N. Garnett's L.D. and Kimmel D.C. Psychological Perspectives on Lesbian, Gay, and Bisexual Experiences. Columbia University Press, New York, 2003. There is no convincing evidence for a gay gene. Indeed, if there was a gay gene, those who carry it will probably be at a disadvantage in the natural selection process of evolution. If there was a gay gene, this gene would cause a significant problem. Homosexuality is associated with low fertility. Indeed, if a homosexual has only sex with same-sex persons, he will have no offspring. Bailey J.M. Biological Perspectives on Sexual Orientation, 2003. One way of finding out whether a condition is genetically determined is to examine the behavior of identical twins who have the same genetic material and comparing them with non-identical twins. It is assumed that twins grow up in the same environment. There have been several studies investigating whether the identical twin brothers of homosexual men are also homosexuals. Concordance, parentheses, both identical twins being homosexual, was only found in only 25 to 50% of identical twin pairs. Genes, therefore, cannot entirely explain homosexual orientation and behavior. Hiller, R.C., and Reinwig, J.D., Evidence of Familial Nature of Male Homosexuality, Archives of General Psychiatry, 1986, 42808-12. King M. and McDonald E. Homosexuals Who Are Twins, a study of 46 probands, British Journal of Psychiatry, 1992, 160:407-9. Recently, a study was published by Professor Spitzer, a prominent psychiatrist. He is viewed as a historic champion of gay activism by playing a key role in removing homosexuality from the Psychiatric Manual of Mental Disorders in 1973. In his study, he examined whether a predominantly homosexual orientation will, in some individuals, respond to therapy. He examined 200 respondents of both genders who reported changes from homosexual to heterosexual orientation lasting 5 years or more. He writes, although initially skeptical, in the course of the study, the author became convinced of the possibility of change in some gay men and lesbians. Although examples of complete change in orientation were not common, the majority of participants did report change from a predominantly or exclusively homosexual orientation before therapy to a predominantly or exclusively heterosexual orientation in the past year as a result of reparative therapy. These results will seem to contradict the position statements of the major mental health organizations in the United States, which claim there is no scientific basis for believing psychotherapy effective in addressing same-sex attraction. Spitzer, R.L., Can Some Gay Men and Lesbians Change Their Sexual Orientation? 200 participants reporting a change from homosexual to heterosexual orientation. Archived Sex Behavior, 2003, 32:403-17. Discussion 419-72. Further evidence, see www.narth.com. 6. Benefits of traditional marriage. There are significant benefits from heterosexual marriage for individual and society. Heterosexually married couples are on average healthier, have fewer psychological problems, and live longer than cohabiting or single individuals. Government policy therefore should be to support and strengthen heterosexual marriage. In reviews by Professor Oswald, Professor of Economics at Warwick University, UK, it was found that marriage reduces mortality. In reviews by Professor Oswald, Professor of Economics at Warwick University, UK, it was found that marriage reduces mortality. The excess mortality of men who are not married is similar to the excess mortality by smoking. Marriage has a much more effect on longevity than income does. For men, the effect is positive and substantial, and almost exactly offsets the large negative consequences of smoking. For women, the effect is approximately half the size of the smoking effect. Marriage is associated with greater happiness, less depression, less alcohol abuse, and less smoking. Marriage gives a beneficial effect in terms of reducing alcohol abuse, especially for men, and reducing depression for both men and women. I don't know, man. I mean, I'm reading this stuff and I understand, that they do studies and stuff like that, but from what what I've experienced coming up, I very rarely know anybody that was really faithful to their wives. And I'm not even trying to be funny. So, I don't know. I maybe know maybe one or two. I don't know. But, today in these last days, it seems like ain't nobody being faithful to nobody, and heterosexual people have made a mockery of marriage as well. You have all kind of scams, people marrying for money, marrying for that green card, So I hear about it. Health benefits of marriage appear to be limited to marriage. Cohabitation does not confer the same degree of benefit than marriage. Formal marriage itself seems to matter. In the few studies that compare marriage and cohabitation, the results tend to show a beneficial effect from being married. Gardner J., Oswald A., Is it money or marriage that keeps people alive? August 2002. Wilson C.M. and Oswald A.J. How does marriage affect physical and psychological health? A survey of the longitudinal evidence. January 2002. Both papers available on Professor Oswald's website. See further reading. 7. Adverse effects of family breakdown. There is a wealth of evidence linking family breakdown with many adverse health outcomes for children and society as a whole. Government policy, therefore, should be to strengthen the marriage-based family of husband and wife. Gay marriages, with their inherent instability, will contribute to the many adverse effects family breakdown has on children and on society as a whole. At the root of many of the problems we see in children and young adults, such as emotional and behavioral difficulties, poor school performance, substance misuse, precocious teenage sexuality, including teenage pregnancy and juvenile delinquency, is the dramatic increase in family breakup and relationship turnover of parents adversely affecting their children. For an overview, see Rebecca O'Neill, Experiments in Living, Civitas, 2002. As a result of family breakdown, children have, on average, more ill health, including higher mortality, emotional problems, including a higher suicide rate. Children from broken families have poor school performance, including poor performance in math, reading, and writing. Children from broken families are more likely to live in poverty. As a result of family breakdown, many single-parent families live in poverty. Children from broken families are also more likely to have problems with substance misuse and poor sexual health, including teenage pregnancy. Furthermore, children from broken homes are more likely to be engaging in criminal activity and are disproportionately overrepresented in the prison population. In a study of more than 170 U.S. cities, a clear link between divorce rate and crime was found. Low rates of divorce were associated with reduced crime rates. Sampson, R.J., Crime in Cities, Tonry and Morris, eds, Crime and Justice, Chicago, 1992. And then there's a link, and under that link I have, this is proof that there is no gay gene. Here's the link. Then I'm gonna go scroll up here because I would like to show. If you want to pause any of this at any time to read it for yourself, you can do so. Oof. What the hell is that? This is what is being pushed on your kids. Where is the church in protest? Do you see this creature reading to children? I'm sorry, but it do look like it's something I would not want around my kids. That is... Do you see this creature reading to children? This is what is being pushed on your children. The dragon is reading a story about transformation to impressionable children. Little boys could look at this and could be influenced to transform into this demonic filth in the pig above. This is also happening in the workplace. Men and women are being forced to take classes where they are taught how to deal with homosexuals. And for real, I take offense to that, because it's like, I don't need nobody to know how to deal with me. I don't need nobody to know how to deal with me. You better know how I'm going to deal with you. Anyway, the powers that be are now making available hormone therapy to your kids in elementary schools that are persuaded to say they feel like they are transgendered. Look this stuff up if you don't believe me. Stop looking up fights and music on YouTube. You have before you the 10-point plan and the plans for the 3 world wars. This is no coincidence. This is all leading up to civil unrest, which will lead to World War III, which will lead to Christ coming back. There have been all kinds of silencing against black doctors and scientists who have evidence of products and chemicals such as soy and atrazine that are being used to turn men feminine. In 1997, a black professor from the University of California, Berkeley, scientist named Tyrone Hayes, was hired in Syngenta, a major corporation, to test their projects. Syngenta was not prepared for Professor Hayes' results, and when they found out his results and he tried to publish his discovery, they blocked him from doing so. They also asked him to manipulate his data, in which Professor Tyrone Hayes discovered that atrazine, St. Augustine weed killer, a popular pesticide, has harmful effects on the endocrine system. It created sexual abnormalities in frogs that it was tested on. Abnormalities such as the voice box or larynx in the male frogs being undeveloped, and also the chemical caused the male frogs to have ovaries and eggs for reproduction. The chemical can turn men feminine. It did produce homosexual behavior in the frogs. Atrazine is a chemical that is applied to more than half of the corn crops in America. It is also applied to Christmas tree farms. Another reason why you shouldn't celebrate Christmas. Jeremiah 10, 1 through 6. What you think is describing? Look at this. It's just crazy. This looks ridiculous. Like, bro, do you really think, whoever this is, do you really think, I know they took and put Bible verses, but do you really think you look good? You look ridiculous. And then look at this shit. Look at this. This is wrong. This is wrong. This is wrong. This is child sacrifice. This is child sacrifice. This is child sacrifice. This is child sacrifice. We live in a culture where people will sacrifice their own kids for likes and clout. If the boy wants to grow up and be a makeup artist or whatever, I'm not knocking that, but this is too much at his young age. Let's take a look at some literature that are being aimed at the youth. So B is for bi. You can shout it out loud. I like boys and girls, and that makes me proud. Man, what? Ridiculous. I don't agree with that either. I don't agree with the gay BCs. Why does there need to be a gay BCs? This is a community that swears gay people have had to deal with straight people's stuff for years, but I don't remember there being any straight BCs. I came across this horrible book geared towards indoctrinating 3 to 7-year-olds. The material in this book is a very cunning attempt to brainwash a child. The agenda is too open. The agenda is to open the child up to different sexual choices in which they are too young to comprehend making decisions about sexuality. Side note, and I don't care what nobody says. I don't care if I have to stand alone on this. I don't agree with this. I mean, whatever happened to B for boy, G for girl? Come on, man. This is, for the life of me, I can't understand the need to talk about sexual orientation to kids that are not even teenagers. 3 to 7-year-olds are not bi, gay, trans, straight. They are just kids that should not know anything about sexuality because it should develop over time after teenage years. How about B for bike? What's wrong with that? The next one. D is for drag. You can strut and dance in clothes that you love, dresses, heels, or pants. Now you got two D's there. Why? Okay, D for dance. What's wrong with that? Drag is for drag shows, which are shows for 18 and over. Drag shows are more of a burlesque show for men. There are drag kings too. Why else do you think that performer be damn near naked? These people know what they are doing. I would not be surprised if the author of the book is a pedophile. These drag queen story hours are a joke. These people are highly sexual. The shows they put on are highly sexual. I seen one drag queen demonstrating to the kids how to twerk, and then I seen another drag queen. She was giving a 10th grader a lap dance. No. That is just G is for gay. G is for gay. Now this took me out. I is for intersex. Baby. So damn stupid. I is for intersex. Some are born with the parts of both a boy and a girl. Bodies are works of art. That's bullshit. Wow, this is indoctrination at its finest. This conversation is too advanced for 3 to 7-year-olds. Being gay is a complex conversation in itself. The intersex definition is a person is born with a combination of male and female biological traits. There are several different intersex conditions. Why this is even a part of the LGBTQ is insane. Intersex and trans need their own community. I always thought intersex was like some sort of medical condition. Some intersex people have both testes and ovaries. You may be able to get pregnant on your own if you also have a uterus. However, if you have testes, they may be releasing more testosterone than would be optimal for conception and pregnancy. I don't agree with this shit. Health benefits of marriage appear to be limited